I'm going to start recording and give you the flag for the pledge.
Okay. I'd like to welcome everyone to the April 16th meeting of the Town of Harrison. And we have an American flag here tonight, so I will lead everyone in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
This is being held on using video conference, both on Zoom and Facebook, correct, Jackie?
Yes, it's being aired on Facebook.
Aired on Facebook, okay. Before I get going, I just wanted to give a quick update. Tonight, we have 191 cases in Harrison. It's up from about 7 from yesterday. In the county, 21,828. And in the state, 222,289. So it seems to be flattening a little bit, even in our town, and it's important for everybody to keep with the social distancing. As everyone has seen in the newspapers, tomorrow the governor has ordered that everyone has to have masks outside, and I believe the extension for reopening is now changed to May 15th. So we're going to be continuing for approximately another month. Just a quick update. There's an email blast out with more information, but just an update on the town services. The court is still closed. We believe, from what we understand, that it will still be closed until the end of May at this point. Our police department is fully staffed. They are possibly pushing up the graduation of the academy that I believe we have 4 recruits right now, so we'll be able to get them on the street a little quicker. Fire departments are fully staffed. Our ambulance corps is doing a great job. I had a long conversation with Bob Calandruccio. Their supplies are in good shape. They're following protocols, and they get updates each week with the emergency department at White Plains Hospital. Our DPW and sanitation, I think everyone is used to the new schedule, and I'd like to commend them again for their hard work the other day with that tremendous storm that went through. They were able to clean up all the storm damage. We did have a few power outages, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been with those high winds. Our assessor's office is continuing processing the exemptions that we spoke about, and he is experiencing a significant amount of calls and email requests. Our building department and fire prevention bureau is fully operational, both people in the office and working remotely. They are taking applications through the mail, and we are receiving quite a bit of applications right now. So when we can get back to work, we'll be collecting some building permit fees, and contractors will be back to work and putting money back in the economy. Our controller is fully functional. They're both working in the office and remotely. Our library has done a great job with all their online services. And our tax collection is moving along. Mike is close to 60% of the taxes collected at this point. So we'll have more to come on that. There is a meeting tomorrow at 7 o'clock for the county legislator. You could go online and view it. They will be voting on any tax extensions. So with that.
Fred, before we start this is Councilwoman Leader, before we start, I'd like to ask that we take a moment, maybe we're planning this, so forgive me if you already were. I think we need to take a moment of silence for everyone who has lost loved ones, and for those who have passed. We have lost members of our own community in recent weeks. There are thousands and thousands of people who've passed away in the New York area. I think every American, especially in this area, has been personally touched by someone who has either been ill or who has lost their lives. We also, I think, want to take a minute to recognize the 22 million people who lost their jobs in the last 3 weeks, many of whom live in our town. Obviously, nowhere near as meaningful as the loss of life, but nevertheless important to recognize. So I would love for us to just take a moment to recognize the suffering of many of our friends and neighbors. Thank you.
Jackie, would you like to
I'll take the roll.
take the roll, please? Thank you.
Okay, so Councilwoman Leader,
Present.
Councilman Dionisio,
Here.
Councilman Gordon,
Here.
and Deputy Supervisor Siliano.
Here. Okay, item A, we didn't have any decisions made from the last town board meeting. B, there's no correspondence and reports. On C, public hearings, I'd like to get a motion to continue both public hearings, 1 and 2, until the May 21st, 2020 meeting, 2020 rather.
I'll make that motion. Frank Gordon.
Franklin, a second?
Rich Denicio, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So moved. D, personnel. We have nothing. Actions and resolutions, E. And this, again, will be continued to the March 21st meeting, 2020. The lead agency designation in regards to the Westchester Joint Waterworks. An extension was asked for due to some additional information that they're going to have to supply that the FAA in Westchester County has asked for. So could I have a motion to continue that to the May 21st, 2020 meeting?
Rich Denicio, motion.
Frank Gordon, second.
Frank, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item number 2, a request by Controller Maureen McKenzie to approve the 2019 year-end budget modification. There is an increase in 013-0000-059-5999 sewer maintenance fund appropriated fund balance of $55,079, and an increase 013-9501-100-0918 sewer maintenance fund transfer out to sewer rent fund, $55,079. Can I have a motion?
Motion. Frank Gordon.
Second.
That motion was Frank Gordon, second Rich Dionisio. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. Item number 3, and this is a lengthy one.
Fred, could I make a motion that we just accept all of these unless there's somebody who objects to any of these? You don't have to read them all off, but it's up to you.
Well, I just would like to, one that's, I think, very good, and it's great that all our residents responded with checks to Nina. But one is very interesting. We had a Harrison resident donate 2,000 pounds of Freebird chicken to the food pantry. And I think that's great. But we have a total of $13,407 to the food pantry. Could I have a motion?
Motion. Councilman Leader.
Second?
Frank Gordon, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 So moved. Item number 4.
I would like to make a motion relative to the food pantry, if I may. And I want to also express my incredible gratitude to everybody that stepped forward to donate. I had actually wanted to share my screen in order to just put the motion on the screen, but I guess I can't do that, Mike. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
I think, hold on, let me stop this one.
Okay. Just because I think it would be easier because there was a lot of discussion about this at our last board meeting.
See if you have the share icon now down
Yeah,
there? The
I
green?
do, I have it.
Okay.
Thank you. So as a continuation of the discussion that we had last week, I would like to make a pretty specific motion, which I think addresses the concerns that were raised last week about making online donations possible for the Harrison Food Pantry. And our town attorneys raised the issue, which I was aware of, about needing to approve the donations. And I would like to make a motion which addresses that, but also enables us to put donations online. So the motion is, one, within 2 weeks, 10 working days, that we set up and make available an online donation portal for the Harrison Food Pantry. The town controller can use her discretion for the choice of platform, but it must allow electronic payments by credit card, debit, or electronic check.
I believe,
Donation-
not to cut you short, but we had a discussion about this last week, and if we want to move it to executive session, there is a problem setting this up legally. And at this
No, I've
point,
addressed that, Fred.
our citizens are responding to us, writing a lot of checks and donations. And
I'd like to finish the motion.
I know I, for one, do want to follow the law. And
I do too. And this motion addresses the law, and I think it's pretty clear that it does, and I'd love to finish reading it. Number 2, the donation site will be available and displayed on whatever is the appropriate spot on the Harrison Town website or otherwise. The funds that are donated will be held by the e-commerce site before being deposited into the town bank accounts, so that at every board meeting, the controller will be able to provide a list from the e-commerce site to the board so that they may approve donations before then the funds are released by the e-commerce site and deposited to the town bank accounts. So this addresses all the issues that were raised by the town attorneys. It is absolutely legal. It doesn't run afoul of any of these issues. It is basically the same process as we currently have. However, it allows electronic contributions. May I please I'd like to make a motion for what's on the screen for this change in, do I have a second?
It's Frank Gordon. I'll second.
So I'm going to call for a vote.
I'd still like this reviewed by our law department, and then we
Just
can
one
discuss
second,
afterward.
before you vote. I know that Councilwoman Leader said that in accordance with what's on the screen, and Mr. Pacini, there's nothing on the screen that I'm viewing.
Open your full view.
Yeah, we have it.
Yeah, it's up on the screen. Just open the full view of your Zoom and you can see it. And it doesn't have to, the wording doesn't have to be exactly this way. We can work it out. The idea was the general principle. E-commerce site, holding the funds until the board reviews and then releasing them once the board has approved them, exactly as we do today, but allowing electronic contributions. And I asked for a motion and we had a second, and I think we're ready for a vote.
Just so that I'm clear on one aspect, this is Jonathan Kraut, Town Attorney's Office. So there'll be no deduct for any credit card fees on that? The donation would be pure into the town?
I have no, I don't, that's going to have to be worked out. I can't answer that. It's going to depend on the e-commerce site we choose. That's why in the motion, it makes it clear that it's up to the controller what platform she uses.
No, I just want to get clarity because, for instance, even in the court system and other places where we allow credit card, we add the charges on top of that.
Yeah,
So
we probably would need to do that again. We
what
probably would need to do that.
Leader is contemplating, or if she's contemplating something else.
No, I'm sure we would need to do that. It's going to depend on the e-commerce site. And as I said, I'm not going to get into the details of what e-commerce site we use. I think that's up to the controller to make that decision. If there's an additional fee, most of the e-commerce sites reveal that, and the donor has the option of whether or not to pay the $3 fee or to send a check. I think that's up to the donor. What I hear from a majority of residents that I hear from all the time, they'd be more than happy to pay a $2 fee in order to facilitate the ease of contribution to our food bank at this critical time. Are we ready to move forward with the vote?
Yes.
I'd like to see this set up before we vote on anything. So
It's not going to move forward unless we vote. So I've made a motion. If you're voting no, okay, but we didn't have a full vote.
Just so we're clear before we take a vote, if I understand the motion correctly, this is Jonathan Kraut for the Town Attorney's Office. The motion is to direct the controller to locate a suitable platform to allow for electronic donations to the food pantry, in essence. Is that right?
And that it will be set up within the next 2 weeks. Correct. pretty straightforward.
I still would like to table this and have Maureen comment on us what's going to work best for the town.
She can comment on it.
And at this
as she's
point,
doing it.
we received a tremendous amount of donations. People aren't afraid to write checks. And we also know, we've reviewed this before, what our balance is and what the participation is in the food bank. And, I just like to have it all set properly before we vote on anything. So I'd like to table to the next meeting.
Okay, but I think we had only 2 votes and we have a third and a fourth person on the board.
I asked for it to be tabled.
Okay, I think you'd need to make a motion to table it, and there'd have to be a vote on that tabling motion.
Correct.
No, this is Frank Allegretti. That is incorrect. Any member could bring a tabling motion forward.
Yeah.
It does not need to be voted on.
Okay. I'm ready to vote on the motion as it is. I vote aye.
I asked for it to be tabled, so I think I have the right to table it till the next meeting.
I think we can also put it on the record. I vote aye. Councilman Leader,
Aye.
Councilman Dionisio,
Whatever helps the food pantry. It seems like other towns are able to do this. I'm sure once we clear it away, it could get done. And if it helps, I'm for it. Aye.
Thank you.
Deputy Supervisor Ciliano.
I again want it tabled until we have it set. With something being springed on us at this meeting, there was plenty of time to have this on our agenda from before, so.
It was on the, this
Yes,
is Councilwoman Leader. It was. I've raised it before.
I've asked for it to be tabled, so that's where I'm gonna leave it. I think we have the donations. I'm not against it. I'm all for.
And yet we're making every possible reason for us not to move forward and spend more time wasted arguing about this when we could be getting donations for the food pantry at a time when we have 22 million unemployed people and a massive surge in demand. So go on the record for that, Fred. I'm going on the record by saying I think we should do that.
You know the situation at the food pantry, and
I do
granted,
indeed.
there are a lot of people that are unemployed, but we have substantial funds right now, and it's being handled properly, and we have enough for everyone. So I'd rather have it done properly, and then I'm not against it, but I just want it done properly.
So in this case, properly means just wait as long as possible to delay it as long as possible before we get this done.
We just received $13,000 worth of donations.
Not enough.
Probably another $6,000 in food. So I don't think that we're delaying anything.
So
Let's-
last thing I'm going to say about this is that it takes about 2 minutes to open a newspaper to see that food pantries all over the country are collapsing
And
under the demand.
I'm in discussions with Nina on a daily basis, and if there was a dire need right now, we would address it. It's not. It's being handled properly. So
The motion has passed. Let's move on. The motion has passed 3-0. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda.
Okay,
For the
it's Frank
record,
Allegretti,
for the
Town
record,
Attorney. Just
for the
so
record.
Jackie, so the record's clear on this. There was a motion, there was a vote. Deputy Mayor tabled the motion, so it has not passed as of tonight.
That's not how it works. You need a
That's how it
majority to
There's a
vote to
standing
table.
resolution that
Frank, I
says
think
the
it would be useful
following.
for you to pull up the statute that shows us that in fact
It's
the
a
mayor can
standing- let me finish.
summarily do this.
There's a standing resolution that goes back to 2009. It's a town board resolution that says that any issue raised at a town board meeting can be adjourned to the next town board meeting at the request of any town board member.
At the request of any, well, we'll keep that in mind for future then.
do that.
If I could, this is Jonathan Kraut. The last speakers were Mr. Allegretti. The female's voice was Ms. Leader, and Mr. Gordon was the one who summarized the voting record and asked to move on. Again, if everyone could please state their name. I had one question for Councilman Dionisio so that we can investigate this topic further. You said there are other municipalities that are doing this online. Can you identify them so we can take a look at how they're doing that, Rich?
Not at the moment, Jonathan.
I
Not at the
can,
moment.
all the surrounding Sound Shore towns, all of them.
I wanted to be specific, so I don't have a list in front of me.
Well, certainly we know they don't all have food pantries, so it would be helpful, and you don't have to do it at the meeting, but if any of you can identify specific food pantries, that would be helpful for the professional staff to look into it. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Councilman Dionisio.
Okay, moving on to number 4. Notification by Town Engineer Mike Amadeo that the proposed 2-family residence within special flood hazard district area of 68 Batavia Place, block 386, lot 9, is located within the FEMA designated floodplain, Harrison Town Code Section 235-32-B. And it states all plans for buildings built in the flood area are defined above shall be transmitted to the town engineer for recommendations. Such recommendations must be confirmed by a resolution of the town board prior to the issuance of a building permit conforming to the recommendations. We've done this in the past. Mike has reviewed it and it's before us for a vote. So could I have a motion?
Frank Gordon, I'll motion.
Yep, I'll motion.
Second, Rich Denizio. All
Yes.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next items 5 and 6 are by the West Harrison Fire Department. They're on the agenda, but the first one has been adjourned already. So we will, I suggest that we remove item number 5. Could I have a motion?
Motion, Frank Gordon.
Frank Gordon, second.
Rich Dionisio, second.
Rich Denizio, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, item number 6, request by Chief of Fire District 1 Pacaluzzo for approval of himself and 7 members of the department to attend the New York State Chiefs Annual Conference in Syracuse, New York on June 10th to June 13th at a cost not to exceed $10,000. Funding is available in account 10-3410-100.04.06. And I would like to make the recommendation for approval, but there's a good chance that this will be canceled. And if so, monies will not be spent. So can I have a
Councilman
motion?
Dionisio, I motion.
Rich, second?
Yeah, it's Frank Gordon. I'd rather handle it a different way and basically table it. This organization said they'll make a final decision on this conference on May 8th. So I would rather just table this until our May 7th meeting. So I'll vote no on the current motion.
Okay. I'm not going to have a second then? Before
You're
we
just
vote?
tabling it to the next meeting?
Tabling it.
Table it to the next meeting. Okay, number 7, request by Controller Maureen McKenzie to approve the following budget modifications and budget transfer to increase debt service transfer from town revenue line and debt service energy performance principal and interest budget lines to be able to properly reflect the payment to PASNY for the LED program. And this has to do with all our street lighting. Increase in 007-000-050-5001 debt service transfer from town $189,452. An increase in 007-9785-100-0605 debt service energy performance principal, $153,171. Increase 007-9785-100-0705 debt service energy performance interest, $36,281.
I'll motion.
Could I have a motion? Denizio, second.
Frank Gordon, I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
to transfer available funds from the Town Fund New York State Retirement Budget line item to the Town Fund transfer out to capital budget line item to cover the cost of a year-end transfer out. Increase in account 001-9501-100-0906. Town Fund transfer out to capital, $2,000. A decrease in item 001-9000-100-0810. Town Fund New York State Retirement, 2,000. Could I have a motion?
Frank Gordon, I'll make that motion.
Second?
Rich Denisio, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any old business or public comment?
Let me see, I'll see if there's any questions on here. Somebody is asking what was accomplished by putting off the West Harrison Fire Department approval until the next meeting.
It's all visible to us, Jackie. We can see it.
Okay, oh, good, okay. I wasn't sure if you could. So those are the questions.
I
I
didn't
don't know
see-
if they are, anybody wants to answer them or not. That's up to you guys. I don't know if you all know how to see them under the Q&A button.
Yep.
Okay.
Basically, if they didn't attend, the funds wouldn't have been expended, but it was asked to be tabled.
Okay.
And, you know, Carlo, I'll address your point about your second one, Carlo, about watching this being ridiculous that we're arguing about this. I agree. I cannot believe we are arguing about something as basic as getting technology set up so that we can facilitate donations from willing residents. It's so depressing to me that even this is an argument. I would so love for us to just be able to get things done in a way that's good for the town, that doesn't wind up being a fight every time. So I agree with you, but I'm not going to back down from something that I believe absolutely
I
cabinet
will
should be
say
doing.
it's not a fight every time. We just want to make
It's
sure.
been a fight now for 2 straight weeks. We could have had it done a week ago.
We just received $13,000 in donations, so I
It's
don't.
irrelevant. That has nothing to do with the argument at
No, it
hand.
doesn't. It
It's
doesn't.
nothing to do with why we're arguing.
Nothing at all.
Attorney Jonathan Kraut, the female's voice was Councilwoman Leader and the male's voice was Deputy Supervisor. If you could, please identify yourself by name before you speak. And there is a lot of feedback presently from all of the open microphones, so please mute them if you're not speaking.
Okay. Is there other questions there, Jackie? I can't.
It looks like there's another one. Lauren, do you see it? Again, it's a food pantry. It just came through, so.
This is Councilwoman Leader. Yes, it's from Jeff Wilson in Silver Lake, who has a comment which everyone can read about donating. He's been, I do know that it's problematic not to have an easy online way to donate. As a result, I've been donating to Feeding Westchester, which I know serves all of our food pantries, including Harrison's. I want to be lawful, obviously, but in this day and age, there are many online collectors who can help us comply with whatever is necessary, even if they take a small percentage. I do encourage the quick move to getting this done, but clearly all should review. Thank you, Jeff, for your comments. I appreciate it. And yes, just one thing, we've gotten a lot of questions about Feeding Westchester. We work very closely with them. They in fact match much of the donations that come, the money that is spent by the food pantry, and Frank, correct me if I'm wrong, but the money that is spent by the food pantry in many instances gets matched. They are the primary resource to the food pantry. So certainly there's a benefit, but it's not exclusively to Harrison. It goes to everywhere and we get a certain allocation. So the funds that Nina has a discrete budget that she's able to spend on food. And just for context, I think she spends about less than $1 per person to feed a pretty substantial number of folks in our community, and those numbers are growing. Frank, anything you wanted to add there? Because you work with her so frequently. I know a lot of people have been asking about it.
Well, thank you. Look, both of these organizations are wonderful. So if you can give to the Harrison Food Pantry or Feeding Westchester, it's just very much needed at this time. And it would be wonderful if we could all contribute. So thank you.
Jackie, any other questions? Because I really can't see that online.
Oh, no, that was all.
There we go. Okay. Okay, matters for executive session.
Deputy Town Attorney Nelson Cantor, I have 5 litigation matters.
Litigation.
Frank Gordon, 1 personnel.
Lauren Leader, a personnel matter and a financial issue.
With regard to the financial issue, could you be more specific? And this is Town Attorney Jonathan Kraut.
Yes, I had specific questions about the legality of how we, what we can and cannot do with our existing town budget. And I think it requires legal advice in executive session.
So it's advice of counsel as opposed to financial, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, could I have a motion to open up the village board meeting?
Motion, Frank Gordon.
Second?
Second.
Second, Lauren Leader. All those in favor?
Aye.
Jackie, would you please take roll call?
Sure. Trustee Leader,
Here.
trustee Dynastia. You go? Rich,
Rich?
you there?
He's on mute.
No.
Here,
Okay.
that would help, huh?
Trustee Gordon
Here.
and Deputy Mayor Siliano.
Here. Okay. There are no reports from the previous meeting held on April 6th. Being no correspondence. On C, I ask for a motion to continue the public hearing regarding a local law amending Chapter 5 of our Ethics Code to be continued to May 21st, 2020.
Frank Gordon, so moved.
Second?
Rich
Leader.
Nusio, second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. No items for personnel. Under actions and resolutions, request by the purchasing department to issue a purchase order number 400880 and 400881 to Vance County Ford in the amount of $44,037.13, each for Ford pickup truck F-250 with plows. Total expenditure equals $88,074.26. Items will be purchased through Dutchess County Contract DCP 94-18 and Westchester County Contract WC 20058. Funds are available within the capital budget. And this is to replace some existing vehicles. And with the distancing that we have to follow, this would help the DPW in regards to performing their normal work. Could I have a motion?
I'd like to make a general comment. Because of the pandemic, the financial consequences to the town are going to be no doubt catastrophic. And that is why I think it's not appropriate for us to make capital expenditures at this time. I think it'd be better to defer them for a couple months till we have more visibility as to the effect of the pandemic on the town's financial situation.
Ooh, we lost you, Frank.
These, I understand what you're saying, but we also have to operate to perform
Exactly
services for
what the
town.
financial consequences are going to be to the
And
town.
I just would like to point out that these are funds that we do have right now.
This is
Town Attorney
Councilwoman Leader.
Jonathan Kraut, this is Town Attorney Jonathan Kraut. Again, I know it takes a little bit of restraint, but if each speaker could first state your name before speaking, it will be very helpful for the record. The speaker who was asking to defer the capital expenditure was Frank Gordon, and then I believe Ms. Leader chimed in as well. Please state your name before you speak.
I don't believe that Frank actually finished. Would you like, you cut off, Frank, so we didn't hear everything you were saying. Do you want to?
So in my opinion,
Oop, somebody's freezing here.
Yeah.
Hold on,
I
let
think
me
there
check
was
again.
Fred in there for a second. I didn't hear anything.
Hold on, please.
Fred Siliano.
Frank, we've had problems hearing everything. You've cut out several times. Your internet froze. So the last statement was also totally frozen. We've now not heard you. You want to try a
Okay.
third time?
Yeah, it's Frank Gordon. Hopefully, I believe the initial lead-in was heard because I heard Deputy Supervisor Ciliano respond. But basically, my position is I think it would be better practice to defer any capital expenditures for a month, and we can decide a month from now whether to move forward. But I'd like to have, for myself, better visibility on the town finances before we commit any funds for capital expenditures.
This is Councilwoman Leader. I absolutely agree. And I can't justify, it's not that I don't think these things may be necessary, but we as a town may have to make some very difficult and unfortunate choices with our budgets in the next number of months. And I do not feel comfortable authorizing capital expenditure at this time.
This is Councilman Dionisio. I believe tabling it is the right thing to do so we could find out where we're going with this, and we'll be better suited to ascertain our finances.
Okay, so could I have a motion to adjourn this to the next meeting?
I'll make that motion, Frank Gordon.
You want to table to May 7th, right?
May 7th.
Rich Dionisio, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Although, yes, but this is Councilwoman Leader. We were just told by our attorney that we don't need to have a vote on something that's being tabled if any council person wants to table it, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I
Save some
stand
time.
corrected.
Well, it was news to me.
Item number 2. I guess someone want to,
Yeah, this is Councilwoman Leader. I'd also like to table number 2. Sorry, were you on 2 or 3?
We're on 2.
I'd like to keep the practice as we did on number 1, so I would make a motion to adjourn number 2 to the May 7th meeting.
Second,
Frank Gordon.
Councilwoman Leader, second.
item number 3, request
Could
by.
we have a vote on that? I'm sorry. I vote
I
aye.
don't think we have to vote.
Well, we
am I correct,
adjourned
Fred
it,
Siliano,
so-
Jonathan Kraut?
He's
That's correct. The standing resolution is if a board member desires to have a matter adjourned one time to the next meeting, they can do so by request. That's been a standing resolution for a decade or more, I believe. So that's correct. If it's requested to be adjourned to the next meeting and there's no exigency, that's the way it works.
Okay. Item number 3, request by Police Chief John Vasta for approval to turn Barnes Lane between Purchase Street and Lake Street and the entire length of Avondale Road between Calvert Street and West Street into a parking prohibited at all times highway. Both roadways are narrow with double yellow lines where parking is currently allowed. When cars are parked, approaching traffic is forced over the double yellow line into the opposite lane. Could I have a motion?
Rich Dionisio, I motion.
Second?
Leader, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Item number 4. I would assume that we were going to table this until the next meeting on May 2nd.
Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
Item number 5. Again, table to May 2nd.
It's May 7th.
7th, I'm sorry.
Although this is Councilwoman Leader, we keep saying that May 2nd is the next, or May 7th is the next
May
meeting, and I know
7th.
that is the next regularly scheduled meeting. We had a lengthy discussion in our last town board meeting about not waiting that long. That
Well,
gives.
what I was going to make a recommendation as opposed to a meeting, we will have a meeting, but make it a work session televised like we're doing right now.
can I understand what, this is Councilwoman Leader, can I understand what the difference is in terms of what we are required to do for a work session versus a town board meeting, and why we would do it as a work session versus just having another town board meeting? What is the difference?
Okay, Town Attorney Jonathan Kraus. So primarily the difference is putting aside general convention, that in the past, work sessions were much more free-flowing for topics and discussion, and often the town of Harrison did not televise those, but obviously they were open to public attendance. The critical distinction now is during the COVID-19 pandemic and the allowance for us to have a meeting virtually as we are this evening, is that the strictures by which we need to keep verbatim transcripts of the actual meeting are taken away for purposes of work sessions. So Fred's suggestion would allow us to do it essentially exactly the way we're doing it right now. We will not have the need for transcripts, which in turn, I promise you, I will not be as prickly about speakers not announcing their name each time, because we're not then going to be required to have those minutes. And of course, we won't have the attendant expense. However, on the upside, to the extent that the board members want to meet more frequently than we would normally do, you would A, be able to do so, and B, you'd also be able to stream it, social media, et cetera, like you are now, so that people can hear what you're doing.
This is Councilwoman Leader. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Jonathan? I'm sorry.
Jackie, go
I'm
ahead.
Clerk Jackie Greer. But when you do a work session, it's a work session open to the public, but there's no voting.
That's correct. So to
Right,
the extent that, that's correct. So to the extent that the board wants to share information and discuss things and tee things up for resolution, they can.
Right, okay. I just wanted that out there.
And again, Jonathan Kraut, the other thing is you don't have the formal strictures for publication of an agenda that the clerk's office would have to deal with, which Jackie can certainly address from her standpoint if she wants to, the work that's associated with that. And Jackie, if you want to, you can comment.
Again, it's Jackie Greer. And to get an agenda out weekly for a regular meeting, it'll be 4 in a row. It's and trying to get the minutes from each meeting, and with everything else going on, and my office being open all these hours and handling all the residents, I think it would be maybe, I don't want to say easier, but yeah, I don't have to do an agenda for the next one if it's a work session versus another another regular meeting.
Yeah, I would, at the next work session, like to follow up on the report that our controller, Maureen McKenzie, had given out at the last meeting, and we can follow up with any new updates that she has, working with our auditors, to keep us advised on our current budget, our projections are going to be, and kind of review some of the reserves that we do have due to the conservative budgeting that we have done over the years that we've been criticized for. So I think that's a very important part to review. It seems that everybody is concerned about this in regards to some of the purchases that we had curtailed tonight. And then also we might have an update on more information concerning proper ways to take care of the food pantry's finances. And you know, one of the things that I do want to mention, the difference between the Westchester Food Bank, they're probably a 501c3, so they're not a governmental organization like us. So we can get an update on that and then really discuss anything else we want to.
It's Frank, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, so
Apologize.
that was my suggestion. So at last minute, we're not getting, Jackie's not getting an agenda out, and we can have a meeting to discuss things, inform the residents on what we want to update them on, and we're meeting once a week.
It's,
So, Fred
sorry,
Silverman.
excuse me, Fred, I'm sorry. It's Frank Gordon. I think the key missing element of a work session as opposed to a regular meeting is the board cannot take action in a work session. So with the developments happening on a daily basis, I think we need to set this up so the board can take action. That's why I'm calling for an official town board meeting next Thursday instead of a work session. We get all the benefits of a work session, all the information you just talked about, but it gives us the option of board action. And I apologize that it puts Ms. Greer to somewhat more demanding. I understand that luckily the cost of transcription is quite minimal, so at least it's not that much more expensive.
This is Councilwoman Leader. I agree. I am
Thank you.
not at all comfortable with waiting 3 weeks till we can vote on anything, even if we wind up having minimal items to the agenda. I'd rather have the option and have it as a regular town board meeting every week. And if we don't have it, then we make we make Jackie's life easier, which we always want to do, because I know how hard she's working, but I feel very strongly that we should have a session where we have the option to vote on items. We do not know from one day to the next, to Frank's point, what we are going to be facing as a town, as a community, as a state. We need maximum flexibility to act. So I would make a motion that it is a meeting next week.
Lauren, if you would.
Could I just say something? Excuse
I'd
me.
like to get back to item number 5.
Hold on. Could I just say something? I understand everyone's concerns on both sides of this issue with the meetings, but also because they're not a regular scheduled board meeting, they're considered special meetings. With 10 days notice and all this other formality. So my thought process is maybe a balance would be that next week be a work session with the following week or the following week to be an actual meeting where the votes will be taken. That way, all the issues will be ironed out. You'll, like Jonathan said, tee up the resolutions for the following week to vote on them. It'll give Jackie enough time to get the agenda done. And then at the next meeting where you're able to vote and take action, you can then decide what the next meeting is going to be like, whether it's you can alternate and have another work session, or whether you feel it's necessary to have 2 regular town board meetings in a row. But just please keep in mind, there's a lot of administrative stuff that we have to pay attention to. And even though we're in a pandemic, we still have to pay attention to some of these things. I'm sure all of you were on that meeting the other day about virtual town board meetings. So maybe there's a compromise here. And at least that way we'll have answers to Lauren's questions, and we'll have some more information, financial information, to answer the questions that raise Frank Gordon's concerns as well. And that way we have a little bit of a happy medium. That's just my suggestion.
This is Town Attorney Jonathan Kraut. The last speaker was Deputy Village Attorney Andrea Renda.
We have what we had said at the last meeting, that the next Thursday is the 23rd. The following Thursday is the 30th. And then our next regularly scheduled town board meeting is the 7th. I stand corrected when I mentioned the 2nd before. So if we have a work session on the 23rd, then we will actually have 2 board meetings in a row. If you want to.
This is Town Clerk Jackie Greer. If we're going to have if the 23rd is going to be a town board meeting, the agenda needs to go out. So I need the agenda items ahead of time. So, whoever, if there's anything to discuss, it has to be an agenda. There has to be something on the agenda. We can't just have a town board meeting with no agenda. So somebody will have to come up with items, and I don't know if our department heads have any. They just submitted it. So you guys will have to come up with topics or something for the agenda.
Village Attorney, I don't want to make this hyper-technical. I think the issues are readily apparent. Certainly as we operate under a declaration of emergency, if there were truly anything exigent, the mayor, in this case the deputy mayor, would have the ability to immediately deploy whatever resources we need to under emergency powers. With regard to the mayor setting an agenda, certainly the supervisor or mayor can set a meeting and an agenda. If board members wish to make a request for a meeting, they certainly can do that. And I believe, if my memory of the statute's correct, on 10 days notice, if there's a majority, the meeting will then need to be set. So I don't want to turn it into a hyper technical discussion. If there is something today that we can identify to put on an agenda that will require action in a week, it would certainly make sense to set an agenda and notice it, and we would recommend to the deputy mayor to do that. If there's not something specific, then certainly a work session makes sense. And if there were an emergency, again, the deputy supervisor would have the ability to act upon it. But Fred, I would ask you to somehow resolve this, figure out whether or not you want to have a meeting next week or a work session next week or neither. And obviously then if board members wish to put in a formal request upon 10 days, you would then need to schedule one. And obviously we can work on what the agenda is. Hopefully you all can work in some consensus fashion to move this forward. And if there is an agenda, you can identify what it is you need to have on it.
Okay.
It's sorry, it's
No.
Frank Gordon.
Good.
I believe last week we made a motion and we all agreed that we would have meetings every Thursday till the end of the month. We agreed that the week before we decided whether it was going to be a work session or a regular board meeting. I believe that was a motion. I believe that carried. It was voted on. So here we are. And the only item on the table, there is going to be a meeting. The item on the table is whether it's going to be a work session or a board meeting. Just to clarify.
That's correct. That was,
Right, and this is Councilwoman Leader, which is why we don't need to issue a written formal request to have it as a meeting, because we already established that we would be deciding that. So, you know, Attorney Kraut, to tell us that now we have to issue some sort of written notice to 10 days ahead to say that we want to make it a board meeting is just simply not fair or right. And it's not what we agreed. And I can't believe we're again arguing about this basic stuff. I think it's pretty simple. If a majority of us would prefer that this be a meeting versus a work session, for whatever reason that majority wants it, that's what we should do. And we shouldn't spend even any more time arguing
There's
about
an
it.
argument that we had set up 3 meetings in a row. I think the question
Right,
was
but
whether we make it a work session or a town board meeting, and Jackie
correct.
issued her statement in regards to the preparation for.
And this is
board
Councilwoman
meeting
Leader,
as
and I
opposed
really
to-
appreciate that. I really appreciate that. I'm not comfortable, and I really do, Jackie, and I know how hard you're working, and you too, Andrea, please appreciate that. But I also am concerned about having weeks and weeks between when we can vote on matters that are, I believe, important to the town, whether or not other people agree with me. I'm a duly elected official. I get to decide if I think something's important, and I'd like to have things that I'd like to be able to vote. And so I would like to make next week's meeting a meeting. If you don't want to do it, I'm one person. You don't have to agree with me, but that is where what I would prefer. And
okay, well, this is Town Clerk Jackie Greer. I have one question. If I get no items for the agenda, what do we do? Because I just asked,
for the
I don't-
agenda.
yeah,
We'll have items for your agenda.
you're going to, somebody will submit them if the department heads don't have any.
Correct.
Okay.
This is Town Attorney Frank Allegretti. Just a point of clarity. Right now, we have a deadline by which department heads submit agenda items, which is typically 7 days before the meeting. So what's going to be the procedure if you're meeting every 7 days as to when the deadline will be for department heads to get agenda items, and so Jackie can put an agenda together and have it posted and published on our website so the public knows what's going to be on the agenda.
This is Councilwoman Leader Jackie. How much time do you need? Like, is 3 days enough for you to write it up, or is that too rushed for you? What
Well,
would work for you?
considering the meetings tonight, no, I mean, if I get everything for Monday, it won't go out on Friday, which I would normally do, but I don't think there could be all that much if it's weekly, so I just
Exactly.
need the items.
Fine. I mean, this is Councilwoman Leader. My view is let Jackie decide what works for her in terms of how much time she needs from the department heads between when they notify her and she writes it up and gets it out. Let Jackie decide. It's her. She's the one who does the work. I'm agnostic.
I will, get an agenda out at the beginning of the week if that's what you decide, but my concern is what if I don't get any items from the department heads because they just submitted what they had?
This is Town Attorney Jonathan Kraut.
This is Frank Gordon. I think
To the entire
Deputy
board,
Supervisor
and-
Ciliano mentioned,
What I was saying
Wait a
is,
minute, guys, you're
I was
talking.
not trying to add a hyper technicality to this at all. I think what the town clerk and myself to an extent are trying to lay out is sort of the issues associated with just having a meeting to have a meeting. It sounds like folks are debating having a meeting or a work session because they want the ability to have a resolution of issues that are yet unknown. So just to cement the point, if there are any issues that truly are emergencies, you have the power to do them through the office of the mayor, given that we're on an emergency declaration.
Okay.
If you want to schedule a meeting for next week, a regular meeting, totally within the purview of the board, you all can work that out. I think what the clerk is saying is that if so, if we're going to have a meeting, have items to her, and Jackie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, by Monday so she can set an agenda, failing which perhaps you just default the meeting to a work session because there'll be nothing on the agenda. But either way, let's not put form in front of substance. The substance really is what specifically is a reason that you need to have a regular meeting, or you could set it, and then if there's nothing on the agenda, and we have done this in the past, if there's nothing on the agenda, then the meeting is essentially canceled.
And at that point, Fred Ciliano, question, Jonathan, if something came up at an emergency that I could bring it up to call for a vote that evening, correct?
Wait,
You're on
John.
mute, Jonathan.
Did,
Jonathan,
you're
you're
on mute.
muted.
Well,
Jonathan,
mhm.
you're on mute.
Is that
You've been on
better?
mute for a good
Yeah,
while.
that's better,
sorry.
Jonathan.
Thank you. The mayor's question, as I understood it, was in the event something came up and he wanted to put it in a vote, could he? The answer is, if it's not a scheduled or a noticed town board meeting, you could not. However, if it were anything that fell under the emergency powers, which are fairly broad if it relates to this pandemic, and we are operating under a declaration of emergency, I hate to make a blanket statement, but yes, the mayor by the gavel could certainly take action. If you want to put something to a vote, then I would suggest you work with the clerk, set an agenda by Monday, and then you can have your discussion and your vote next week.
So to make it easier for everybody, I recommend that anybody has anything for the agenda, please get it to Jackie on Monday, by Monday. And that includes all department heads and, other town officials. So,
it's,
Jonathan Crowd again. So just to be clear, the board has decided, and you don't need a resolution, to set a meeting for next Thursday at 7 o'clock with a deadline to the clerk on Monday for agenda items. Is that right, Fred?
yeah, that's what we'll do. And if something comes up that's an emergency, we can deal with it that night. Correct?
Correct.
it's Frank Gordon. I have 3 items for the agenda for next Thursday's meeting, and they were pretty much what Deputy Supervisor Ciliano mentioned. Maureen McKenzie's financial review, further details. You have the food pantry online proposal we're going to follow up on. And then Deputy Supervisor Ciliano also mentioned an update on capital reserve funds. So that's 3 to start. Thank you.
Okay. So with that, I ask that the village board meeting be adjourned for executive session.
Excuse me, Fred, it's Maureen McKenzie.
We didn't do number 5.
I'm sorry, Jackie, I'm sorry.
Number 5 on the agenda.
Oh.
Jackie, I think Maureen was also trying to break in with something when we have a second.
Yeah,
Yeah, just, I guess, could I have we don't need a motion. I just assume that number 5 is going to be tabled just the way everything else was.
Maureen?
yes.
I think Maureen, Fred was.
I just had a question. If there's something going to be required of me additionally from what I gave you, I'd like to know in advance what you expect me to supply you with. The audit is winding down now. We should be finished within, the next Monday or Tuesday of next week. But if there's some detail that you need, I just need you to let me know what it is so that I can be prepared to give you the report.
Of course.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Councilman Dionisio on item number 5. This is our police department, correct? Of course.
Yeah.
I motion in favor of that, number 5, that item number 5. It's for our emergency responders, and I think it's important we have reliable vehicles.
Rich, I don't disagree with you, but, I also consider the same thing, our DPW guys are performing a lot of functions right now, and they do need the vehicles to get them around and do the proper distancing. So I don't disagree with you, but I don't think it's any different than
Well, I
what
think,
the DPW
I'm sorry,
is asking.
Councilman Dionisio, I think our police department are on the road more frequently. Their vehicles have a lot more miles on them. They're working out 24/7. If the police chief, warrants newer vehicles for dependability, I consider the police department a little bit differently than the DPW. I'm not selling DPW short. I just think that police and DPW are two different entities.
It is an unmarked vehicle, Rich,
Mhm.
so it's not a normal patrol car.
So police
just-
vehicle.
You read through it.
This is Councilwoman Leader. I guess I would just love to get a little more background on this from
Yeah, and
Shasta.
we're going to have a meeting. We'll put that back on the agenda for next meeting. We'll ask Chief Vasta to give us more information,
Great.
if everybody's in agreement with that.
This is
Sure.
Councilwoman Leader, agreed.
Frank
Fred
Gordon,
Dillon.
yes.
Rich Dionisio, fine.
Okay, I'll speak to the chief tomorrow. Okay, with that, I'd like to get a motion to adjourn the village board meeting. We'll go into executive session, call in with the number that Jackie provided. And then I guess we'll reconvene. And Jackie, I believe before, this is Fred Soliano, we should put it on mute and
Yes, one
stop
second.
the video.
There was one question asked.
Oh, okay.
Lauren, do you see it? Because I don't know if the others can.
Yeah, I can see it. From Amy Lindsay. Okay, so general question, in addition to each meeting, what plans Harrison is making, how Harrison is coordinating and sharing best practices with our neighboring towns, who on our board is tasked with these items and relationships. Isn't there a need for regular reporting, especially as things like testing, tracing become more part of operating and moving? And I think what you mean is getting back to normal. Feel like the citizenry would find these updates essential. Thank you for that, Amy. I'll just take a quick response. I agree, and I think actually it'd be a great thing to add to the agenda for next week. Is just a discussion as best as we can of the things that each of us have been hearing from our neighboring towns and what we've been learning from them. I know the deputy mayor's been on the calls with the county exec every couple days, right, Fred? And I know
Yeah, that's Fred Soliano. That's what I was going to mention. I'm on a call every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with the county executive and all the mayors and supervisors, county legislators throughout the county. And we take the information from the county. What you're speaking of specifically is testing, and those are items that the state and the county are still working out right now. And it'll be part of the transition and getting us all back to normal. And there are no decisions on that right now. So as far as communicating with neighboring towns, we are doing that. I am doing that on an every other day basis through the county, and we'll update everyone as they progress. but some of it is above any of our local municipalities, what I might want to do, what the mayor of Rye might want to do, the supervisor in North Castle. It's really dependent upon the state and county health department as we progress. So.
And this is Town Clerk Jackie Greer. I just want to say I'm talking to all the town clerks throughout Westchester every day, all the time. We worked out how everybody was doing meetings, and all on the administrative side, we've been working how we were handling things working remotely. So just so you know, I've been talking with them every day. It's Westchester Putnam Town City Clerks.
This is Councilwoman Leader. I think Amy's last point was just that she'd like to hear more of what we're hearing from the other towns. And so maybe we can add that to our sort of summary at the next meeting, is just anything that residents might benefit from hearing. And then Carlo Riccobono brought up a last point that I'll just read off, which I think is a meaningful one. And Carlo, I don't know if you heard us at the beginning. We did a moment of silence for all of those that we've lost, but he said, can you please thank the police department and the Harrison Fire Department for the beautiful send-off of Jimmy Morabito this week. It was beautiful to see. Not many towns are lucky to have this done, and it was indeed. And I know we all are grateful to everyone who came out to show their love and condolences. So happy to reiterate that.
Okay. Thank you, Carlo, for that mention. So I make a motion to adjourn the village board meeting for executive session.
And Gordon, so moved.
Second,
Second, Leader.
all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Mute or,
So we're going to mute and stop your video, and then we'll do the call in for executive session, and then come back to the. Okay, I guess we're all.
Okay, now I can hear you. I had no audio there for a while.
Okay, so I guess we're going to resume the.
And by the way, so exciting that we didn't get bombed. No Zoom bombing. this time.
know,
Great
I
job,
know.
Jackie. Yay.
And all nice, or all great, good comments, and
We had like 40 people on. Oh, it looks like we still have 23 people on. That's great.
okay, good, because we put up the sign to wait, that we would be back. Okay, so we are back on live, so we
I think Fred is still muted.
oh, okay. Then so is Frank.
I hear you and Lauren.
You can always hear me.
Fred.
He's getting yelled at in the background.
Probably.
In all my corporate calls, it's always either a dog or a baby that interrupt.
No. All right, and well, we are live on Facebook also.
I can't hear Frank Gordon either.
I'm
He's
here,
not
Rich. Thank
talking.
you.
Thanks, Frank. So we lost you there.
I'm loving Fred's like Christmas in April decorations at his house.
Motion, right? You guys need to motion to open.
I'll make a motion to open up the both the town and the village board meetings.
Second,
was-
Peter seconds.
So there was two.
Who made the motion? Frank? You did?
Yes, I'll make that motion. Frank Gordon.
Okay, and Lauren seconded. So
Right.
all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so there's two resolutions from executive session. Authorization to settle the claim in the matter of Cosi versus Town of Harrison, $70,000. And then authorization to settle the claim in the matter of Geico versus Town of Harrison, 3503. And these are subject to the claimant signing a general release.
I will make both of those motions.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And only if Nelson keeps them at 50% of what they're asking for, right?
Right.
Okay,
Okay. That's all.
good.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you,
I'll
everybody,
talk
for
to-
being
I'll talk to
on.
Maureen tomorrow, and then I guess whatever, we have some of the items for the agenda for next Thursday.
Yeah, I'm going to send out an email
Yeah.
to everybody, or
What's up,
including
please
you
get back
guys,
to,
to email me them.
Okay, thanks, Jackie.
Great. Thanks, everyone. for
Thank you,
coming.
everyone.
Yeah,
Stay, stay safe.
You
Stay
Do you want to make a motion to
Oh,
close?
make a motion to close the town and village board meetings.
Second.
second.
Lauren, second.
Frank Gordon, so moved.
So moved.
So moved.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Be safe.
Um,